Welcome to our first MMA challenge, and our topic today is cage versus rings. And should cages be mandatory for North American MMA events?
Well, there are all kinds of reasons that the cage is better for MMA than the ring. We're going to talk about a few of them right now.
The thing about the cage is that
You don't have to worry about falling through it.
well, that's true. I mean, just in the last Affliction pay-per-view, Babalu, he fell through the ring 2 or 3 times. Another thing that they don't do when I'm not remembering if they did it on Pride when they fell through the ring is stop the timer, stop the clock.
Yeah.
They did not stop the clock in Affliction.
Yeah, and also in Affliction, not that we're just trying to bash Affliction, but also in Affliction, they didn't restart the fight in the middle of the ring. At least Pride did that, which takes time. It's just ridiculous. Why do that when you don't have to? When you can put a cage up, fight in the cage, you don't have to worry about it at all.
Yeah, another thing compared to a cage to a ring, in the ring you can get cut off.
Yeah, in the ring you can get cut off, which, sometimes is good, but sometimes is bad. I mean, when you're watching the fight as a spectator, it's when somebody's in the corner, when 2 opponents are fighting in the corner of a ring, then it seems so. You don't get a good look at everything that's going on. It seems more like a tangled mess than anything. And even against the ropes or in the corner, you notice that people. Sometimes they lose submissions because they accidentally go over the ropes, not realizing it, and have to break their grip, or under the ropes. Or, when people go for a body lock, or when they're trying to, it just doesn't work out well for that.
I've actually seen a few times where they've got up against the ropes and tried to get a lock, double underhooks, and they've actually went over the ropes. I mean, they put the weight on the ropes and they went over the ropes.
Yeah.
Cages, you can't do that. Some people argue that the cage, you just push them up against it. Couture is known for actually, when he trains, he uses the cage as a tool to get people down. Some people argue that that's unfair. That's just part of the game.
But what's so unfair? What's more unfair, doing that, or somebody pulling somebody out of the ring, or making sure to get to the ropes because they're in trouble? At least you don't have to have it restarted. And the thing is, everyone has the option as to whether they can use the cage or not to their advantage.
Yeah. Another thing about the cage that I've heard quite a few times is dirty boxing, getting your opponent up against the cage and utilizing the dirty boxing skills, which is Couture is known for. I don't see that as a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing, because people try to dirty box when they get somebody in the corner in the rings. Yeah. But the thing is, once again, what's bad about it? It's just a block off. All it is it's just it keeps you from falling out or anything. It's just an area, and it keeps you in that area.
Now, I've seen different variations of using the ring in MMA. Recently, IFL decided that they were going to get a more of a octagon-ish. Well, they can't do octagon because it's patented by UFC. But they had more of a circular ring. They had little corners in it like the octagon, but they weren't getting cornered like they were in their normal ring. Later in Vale Tudo, they had a ring, but at the bottom they had mesh where you couldn't push your opponent out. You couldn't roll out of the ring. Yeah. If you're going to use the ring, look at those. That's a good idea. Even though
just find a way to make it suitable for MMA, and to make it to where you can, there's a way to keep them from falling out of the ring. But there's no real reason. Honestly, there's no reason to have a ring in MMA at all. A cage, in my opinion, should be mandatory, because the reason the cage was designed in the first place was for mixed martial arts in general. Okay, the octagon, when it was designed by Rorion Gracie and his people for the first UFC, the reason they made the octagon is because they had trouble with the rings in Brazil when they would fight. People falling out and everything. So he knew that the most
the suitable answer.
The most suitable answer, to that would be to have a cage, to have pretty much a wall to keep you from falling out.
another thing with the ring. Pride done it was they would tighten up the ropes. I mean,
Yeah.
the thing about that is you got like 5, 6 people sitting there holding the rope up, and it doesn't. There's nothing wrong with that,
But
it
there's
just
no
don't-
purpose for it. There's
Yeah.
no, once again,
You
there's
got
no
people
reason
like
to do it.
standing around the ring. And
Why
it just
have
don't
it?
look good.
Why have that when you can have a cage and not have to worry about any of that?
Yeah,
I just don't get it.
but that's the thing about Pride. They had tight ropes. It helped out some. Affliction didn't have tight
But
ropes.
people
at
still
all.
fell through those ropes.
Yeah.
You know, they still had problems. There's just no way around it.
The thing about a ring, still ref stoppages, which is going under the ring, going over the ring, going through the ring. You don't have that in a cage. You don't have the ref interfering every 2 minutes. Even when they restarted, I mean, in Pride they restarted them in the middle, which was great. But you know, you got that whole.
It's still
One
an
thing, you
interruption of
lose-
the fight.
Yeah, you lose your momentum.
You're in the middle of watching a fight, and then they have to stop it. I mean, it had good action, everything's going, then they have to stop. I mean, once again, actually probably for like the 4th time that I've said this, but there's no reason
Well,
to have to do it.
if you're thinking from a fighter standpoint, it kills your momentum. Say that you're really digging in there and you're doing real well, and you got your underhooks, or you're doing really good with the.
Yeah, I mean they
If you
restart
stand
you in
up.
the same position in Pride, so but it's still
It messes up your momentum.
yeah. I mean you're
A lot of
on a
fighters
roll,
talk
yeah.
about momentum in fights, getting stopped for cuts, for mouthpiece falling out, for low blows. It messes with your momentum, and it's the same thing with somebody stopping you in the middle of the ring because you've fallen out of the ring. It messes with a fighter's momentum. There's really no need for a ring. Is boxing mandatory? Is the ring mandatory for boxing?
Yeah, ring's mandatory for boxing. Yes.
It's mandatory for boxing, so why shouldn't MMA have mandatory for cages in North America? Other organizations in other countries can do whatever they want, but we definitely think in America, in North America, it should be mandatory to have cages for mixed martial arts because it's exactly what they're used for, and that's what. And other rules in mixed martial arts should be mandatory, and that's one of them, to use the cage in mixed martial arts.